all the learners who are watching this particular session, they have few questions around AI. How AI is going to help me in my career? I'm starting my career today. What should I learn? Should I learn how to actually code for AI? I'm not sure. When Sam Altman says that OpenAI's code was actually written by Gen AI to OpenAI itself much time. So is coding going to be relevant? Maybe that's one question. Should they continue to learn coding, or should they learn something else? So what would you tell our listeners and learners?
You have to evolve your skill as time goes by. That's how
Sure.
I'm going to put it, right?
Sure.
Will you code? My belief is the answer is yes.
Understood. Okay.
Will you code the way people are coding today? The answer probably is no.
Is no. Understood.
So if you go back 25 years ago, the way we wrote software code is very different from the way we write it today. Right? There are people, I mean, if you look at the software written for the Apollo program to go to the moon, the entire software is about 4.5 KB on punch cards, etc., etc., etc. 4.5 KB. Let's try to understand
That's
this.
all.
Yeah. So I mean, there is another relevance. I mean, I could be a little bit wrong about this. Do you know the total amount of compute power on your mobile phone today is more than the amount of compute power Bill Clinton had in the White House?
Very interesting. Very
right,
interesting.
and the communication power.
Right.
The total bandwidth the White House had during his presidency, right? You have more than that.
That in our pockets today. Lovely.
Right. So a lot of these things have changed dramatically. So you are not going to do it the same way. You're going to do it differently. But yes, are you going to be able to code? I believe that will continue in some shape or form in a different aspect. Definitely having the foundations of knowledge on how we got there is equivalently interesting and important. We do know, for example, in physics that Einstein's theory of relativity therefore defines gravity, etc., etc. That doesn't mean we stop learning Newtonian gravity.
Sure.
For a lot of math that we need to do,
you still need
Newtonian gravity is simpler to solve. Right? Just because I throw a cup and it needs to fall down, 9.8 meters per second square works. Right? If you're going to use Einstein's equation to solve it, really you need help.
Fair point. Fair point.
Right? So there is different ways things will evolve. But when you think about it as future, what do I need to do?
Careers
what capabilities, careers that I want to evolve?
If I'm starting my career today as an MBA graduate, so how should I embrace this? What will be your recommendation to that learner?
It's going to be the exponential change means our brains are not ready to adapt to what the future is going to look like.
Okay.
Right? And the easiest way to first understand this is today, if you are a student, go try to get in, go look at how your grandfathers and grandmothers use technology. Right? They are not that far away. They are probably about 35, 40 years ahead of you. And in 35, 40 years, what has happened is they are not able to contextualize themselves to today's mechanics. They will see you ordering food on Swiggy and they will think you're doing something really, really wrong. They cannot comprehend that context, right? They look at the way we order on e-commerce and they cannot comprehend it. They believe, more importantly, when we engage in social media, they cannot comprehend that context. Some of them get used to it, but they find it really, really odd.
Understood.
Right? The social behavior is odd, etc. And this happens in 30 to 40 years. Now, from the time a person graduates, they're going to work at least 40 years.
Of course.
Right? Which means, look at the amount of change technology can have in that next window. Remember, it's going to be faster than what happened in the previous 40.
Sure.
So it's going to be substantially more. So the key is going to be how fast are you going to be willing to adapt and change as things evolve in front of you. That's like absolutely. So your learning doesn't stop at the university. It actually starts at the university.
Right.
Once you've finished university, it's like, okay, now I'm at the starting line.
Lovely.
Right?
So university prepared you for...
Correct. So what you did was you went through what I call, you learned the process of learning. You've been trained on the process of learning at this point, right? You cross your university. I believe the first 20 years of your career is going to be what I call the process of working. You learn the process of work and getting to understand customers, empathizing with a customer, building that relationship, etc., etc. And the next 20 years after that is where you're going to be like, how do I get to that maxima in your life with respect to productivity, capability, etc. Right now, for different people, this might occur at different venues, etc.
Fair.
What I see as an opportunity with AI, very specific today, which has not been as much with some of the other technologies before, is that this is something that foundationally enables you to do a lot of white collar functions that we might typically say.
Sure.
Most of the previous evolutions were around technologies that sped up things that were very labor intensive. We used to use the term digital transformation. If you look at all of the digital transformation, it was instead of moving atoms, we moved bits.
Understood.
Right? Moving back atoms is like, hey, I need to get a yellow pages to figure out what is there.
Fair
Or
point.
I need to open a catalog and flip through pages to figure out what is there. Now I can search for it. I can locate it digitally. So instead of moving atoms, you're moving bits. Very, very energy efficient. In the order of 10 power 23 kind of equivalent, right? Energy efficiency, or 23 orders of magnitude efficiency in physical terms.
Right.
Now, but when you come to AI, it is creative. You can generate content. You can generate images, video, text. You can automate activities that otherwise would have been, very labor intensive, etc. You can respond to customer queries. You can respond to. You can connect with humans. There's a lot more. Some of the Turing test challenges have been gone. Right, we are past that window today. I mean, it's very hard for you to detect whether the other person is human or
AI. Correct.
AI. Right. So, having hit that point, it is now possible that within the next few years, I could be aggressive in saying less than 5 years, but worst case, probably a little bit more than 5 years. I believe there will be this, what I call as a solo person unicorn, like a solo unicorn, which is one person, $1 billion valuation company,
Interesting.
right?
And
Which
these are
means
the opportunities you see.
I see in front of us.
And I'm not sure if students are talking about it or even thinking on those lines. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that? Why would that happen? How would that happen?
Because the ability, think about it a bit. There are 2-3 things that's happening today. One is automation with AI,
Right.
which is that means a lot of classical functions that you do in the enterprise can be automated.
Fair point.
It is not just automated; you can make them available 24/7.
Right. Of course.
You can make them available in several languages. That means you can hit several markets in parallel.
In parallel.
And the cost of replicas is cheaper. Remember, it's horrendously energy intensive to hire and train a person.
Right.
AI is not that energy intensive.
Understood.
Right? Yes, it uses electricity, but it's not as much as a human being.
Sure.
Right? And then, so this means you can scale, experiment, test, validate very, very fast in comparison to what previous large companies had to do, etc. That's one. The second thing that's happening is there are about 3.5, 4 billion people today connected to the internet, and another 3 billion people that are not connected.
Fair point.
And these people are also coming on board. That's new markets nobody has reached.
Interesting.
We
have not reached because we don't understand that.
We have not reached because they have not been connected.
Understood.
They are not connected to the internet.
Understood.
Right? And we are bringing them on board. There's a lot of energy going to get them all on board, like what Starlink is doing, what Google is doing, what Facebook is doing, etc. And all of these organizations are working to get the next 3 billion, 4 billion people on board on the internet, connected, etc. That means the new markets are emerging, which have been untapped.
Understood.
Right? Let's take 100 million people in there, is a particular cohort of market that you're after, and you need to make $1 per month out of each person.
You make $100 million.
Right? Per month.
Of course.
That's that's $1 billion in revenue. For all logical purposes, it's about $8 to $10 billion in market cap.
Wow. That's very interesting. That's what I love having these conversations with people who are sitting at the cutting edge of where rest of the humanity don't have those access to those seats, but you are able to see in future and
and it is right in front of us. So now what happens is, how do I reach these markets? How do I connect to this? What can I do? What kind of opportunities exist in front of us, and what can we do? Is where all that opportunity exists. So to me, and remember, the large organizations also see this, but their velocity of change,
of course,
is much slower than the speed in which a 1%, 2% decisive organization can go. We always know that smaller teams can always decide and move faster than larger teams. So when smaller teams can do it, and whenever you want to experiment 10 different things, and if you're able to use AI agents and other things to achieve these experimentation, your velocity is faster. And I believe, therefore, this goal of solo person unicorn looks a lot more realistic over the next 3, 5, 7-year window
Understood.
much more efficiently. One, because markets will get created. Two, because technologies exist to reach these markets.
No, fair. No, while as much as this sounds very interesting, but it's still for our learners maybe a concept that this might happen, which is good. But I think these things are already happening. Before this session, we were over our coffee, we were having this conversation about store cake. So you want to bring that example. I'm not saying that this is a solo billion-dollar
Right.
business, but untapped opportunities, which probably you and me sitting in Pune or in Bangalore may not even know exist. So
Right.
maybe
So
that will be
yeah.
helpful to
So yeah. I mean, Store King is a business that's been around for some time. It's not something that we in the cities know of very easily.
Right.
But if you're in a tier 3, tier 4 town,
They will know that what is
they will
Store
know
King.
what it is. Think about market opportunity like this. Think of very small stores in a village of about few hundred people. There is 1 or 2 stores in the entire town. There is a console in that town connected to a 4G dongle,
Interesting.
right? Because internet is limited. So what happens is if you need, let's say, a product that would typically be available only in a city,
Understood.
right?
Like
What
Nike sneakers,
sneakers is a great
Understood.
example. But for example, I need Cadbury's
silk
chocolate, silk
Yeah.
chocolate, etc.
Understood.
Right? These are classic urban exposure products, right?
And just a disclaimer: we have not been paid by Nike or Cadbury's to name their
Right.
content in this one.
Yeah. So
But these are the
or much more easily, right? Simply think of an Android phone,
yeah, exactly.
right? Hey, I now have a little bit of extra money. I want to buy a phone, and everybody wants a phone,
Sure.
right? And then I want a phone cover. I need some headsets to go with it, etc. So on and so forth, right? So I then walk into the store and I place an order. All right. Now the item gets delivered to that store,
Okay.
and the storekeeper comes and gives it to you.
Interesting. So it's
Right?
like a
Remember,
hub.
this town is just 2 streets.
Right.
Right? So the storekeeper knows everybody, everybody knows everybody else,
Right.
and you've placed this order, and the item comes to the store, and the storekeeper gives it to you. Now the store is very well identified as an address, etc., and then the distribution network works through that mechanism.
Understood.
Now this is a market. Now this is, as a business model would not work in a city. It makes no sense,
Sure.
right? It just doesn't add up. But there are enough tier 3, tier 4 towns in the country that you can go as a market to. You can build a business off of. Now, that's one example. Now, if you look at education, people who are not connected to the internet
Right.
are not connected to the internet.
internet.
Now, bring them on board,
Right.
right? Now, these individuals that we bring on board through education have unique insights into the markets they grew up in. And then we educate them. Now, what happens is their insight is the next thing to say,
Clubbed
hey,
with.
and remember, at the end of the day, any startup founder will tell you, I have a unique insight,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Through which I create that opportunity to go after a particular addressable market. That insight is what creates that market opportunity.
Interesting.
And then this technology enables them to build out these things way faster. What would it take for me to build commerce, retail, healthcare, education businesses in those additional new market spaces a lot faster is because of this enabling. What it took for me to build a high scale, large educational tech company, or what it would take for somebody to build out a large scale healthcare company 10 years ago or 5 years ago to what it would take to do this today will be exponentially lower.
Correct. I don't have to now, especially with companies like AWS, Google. I can rent out the infrastructure. I don't have to build it.
You rent out infrastructure. There's a lot of foundation building blocks of technology readily available for you to.
Exactly.
You're standing on the shoulder of giants, right? So things have already been built. You're ready to experiment. Now AI will assist you in develop. So a developer, previously you needed a team of 25 people to develop. With
Right.
AI, it's going to be 8 or 10 people. But remember, you will go back to 25, but you're doing the work of 100 plus
100
people,
plus people.
right? And there is a lot of problems. Remember, when you add these billion people to the market, there is a whole set of new problems, new solutions you have to build. So it's not like, oh my God, I'm going to be out of a job. It's just that you are going to be doing a different kind of a job,
Fair.
a lot faster, a lot more different to address these markets which were previously unaddressed.
No, this reminds me of certainly, the movie Social Media, which actually covers how Facebook started at Harvard University. They didn't have the infrastructure. They had to actually not even rent out. They, without informing or taking appropriate approvals from the library of Harvard University,
They blew up the network.
Yeah, exactly. They blew up the network, right? Now, when they had to do it, they had to actually buy their own servers now. You don't have that requirement. You
Correct.
actually
So
buy
cloud
or rent out
enables
the
you
space.
to start things faster. So cloud is an exponential technology on which you sit on top of. So when Jeff Bezos started Amazon, he had to get $1 million of funding just to buy hardware and set up his business and so on and so forth.
Right.
We don't have to do that. We can start with much smaller
Just
numbers.
pay on a monthly basis.
We can experiment at lower cost
Right.
than somebody who has to do that there. Today, logistics has evolved sufficiently. You can go find logistics organizations that you can work with who will do the distribution for you, as opposed to you building out logistics on your own. Like 20 years ago, if you want to build commerce or retail in India, you had to figure out your logistics.
Of course.
Not today, not anymore. Warehousing has become easier. Payments has become easier.
Fair point.
Bill discounting has become
Right.
easier. You name it, right? A lot. Banking has become easier. Today, for example, you can transfer money 24/7. So each of these building blocks adds up to your capability to build out that. You can sit in India and build for a market in Uganda,
Fair point.
right? And remember, the last 30 years through IT outsourcing, we have learned this discipline,
Lovely.
right? And that's a building block, right? Not a lot of countries have that advantage.
Right.
We have learned how to service other markets from India quite well. So
Fair
a lot of these advantages are coming together. Now, the opportunity for anybody coming out of college today is like, hey, what are these competencies that we have in the country? How do I leverage them in the right way? Identify the right insight market opportunities, or find somebody and partner somebody who has these insights to build out on what's next.
Understood. No, this is very helpful for somebody who is of entrepreneurial mindset. There are a lot of opportunities. There is 3 billion plus population which still needs to be connected. And as long as there are insights, how do you serve them? There is technology available, and good that you are actually starting your career or starting your entrepreneurial journey when you have that digital readiness backing up your business ideas. But Madhu, you also spoke about that how there is a significant opportunity in India, particularly where technology adoption can further go on. For instance, you spoke about some of the food delivery apps in India and outside of India. The staff ratio is much higher in India. This could be perceived as that there is more scope for technology to be adopted. I'm not saying that we will fire people, but there is more scope for technology. So somebody who's starting their career as an MBA graduate with a flair for technology, what would be your advice, as person working in the technology? Do we still see what kind of career opportunities you see for them, and how should they prepare for those career opportunities?
If you're looking at an capability around how would I develop a career, right? So your career could be developed on any business problem out there.
Sure.
Right? The foundations of any business, like empathizing with customer, building, identifying a unique insight to the market, etc., continue to be. None of them go away.
Right.
Technology acts as an accelerator catalyst to achieve that. So the key is understanding what technologies exist,
Right.
enabling and accepting the concept of velocity and change in front of you. It is going to be faster. It's exponential change, right? So what's going to happen is things are going to change around you much faster. That means you have to build a team around you, or you as an individual have to be willing to learn very, very fast. That's why I said your learning starts at the end of college, really
Right.
speaking. You have learned the process like
Of
over
learning.
20, 21 years, 22 years right now. And now what you're going to do is you're going to press the accelerator on it. Right?
Interesting.
So what's going to happen is you're going to learn faster than, so for example, what's going to happen, let's say the first day you go to a job, whatever you're doing on the first few weeks of the job is not what you're going to be even doing next year. It's going to start changing. Because your boss is going to expect you to do more than what you did before, because these tools exist.
Right.
You're going to do more and more and more with lesser and lesser time.
Understood.
Right? And that's sort of where that's going to come in. Now, in terms of career options, etc., you could work in the core of technology. It could be in areas that are surrounding, but in everywhere you will enable technology. I mean, you could be in the business of laying roads, right?
Sure.
You could have a career in mechanical engineering and lay roads, and civil engineering and lay roads, and that's perfect. You could be a HR professional. You could be a marketing professional. You could be an arts specialist, right? In any of these, you could be selling fine art, right? In all of this, though, technology is going to have a play. Right? The ability, take fine arts as an example. Now there's going to be new art, there's going to be AI generated art.
NFTs?
Right?
Non-fungible.
NFTs were there, right? Now you're
Right.
going to have AI generated art, and somebody's going to tokenize the AI generated art, and you're going to think like, I can do this 150,000 times as fast as you can even imagine, right?
Right.
But it is going to be there. It's about the nuances of what it is. Now, how do you set a value to it? How are you going to do anything about it, right? All of that becomes important, interesting. And remember, so in that field, you know, how do you sell it? How do you market it? How do you empathize with the customer? Understand how this is going to go is going to be critical. But you have to realize that you have to adapt. If you say, no, this is all I do, somebody's going to go past you.
Sure.
The advantage that I think each of these employees, like, you know, even if you go as an employee, you have to understand that as an opportunity that you have with you is that you have the advantage of flexibility and change at a younger age
Right.
than
Somebody.
us.
Absolutely.
Right?
No, absolutely.
It's we have not been at our age adapted to that velocity yet. Though many of us would like to consider ourselves as fast changing, but the
reality
pace
is
is
different.
the pace now is a lot more different.
Right.
So that can happen. So there is a certain level of what I call compression of experience that occurs because of AI.
Right.
So, you know, a person with 7-8 years of experience or 5 years of experience, once you get past the early phases of evolving and understanding the workplace, etc., as an employee can be very, very productive as a person with 15-20 years of experience, and bring that insight, because AI is going to augment you with that insight, and you know, taking advantage of that is going to be important.
Fair point. No, very interesting. Because this course is on emerging technologies, I know that there are technologies beyond AI also, which are
Yes.
which as humanity we are working, and probably there is a lot of scope. So we spoke a little bit about how the areas which currently we are not looking at as career opportunities, but can be, for instance, harnessing solar energy, or providing food for everybody, or providing electricity for everybody. These are also the areas where a lot of work is happening. Would you like to throw some light on these areas?
Sure. I mean, areas that are beyond classical computing technologies like AI, etc. Right. So there is in the material sciences. So energy. So the whole energy transfer. There was mechanical and steam energy. We had electricity, and then how to harness electricity better. And like, instead of burning coal, we do solar, nuclear, etc., etc. There is a whole energy transition the world is going through. There is a lot in material sciences and energy transition that's evolving very rapidly. That's one. Biotechnology, ability to harness, improve our life, health, enable things around what human beings can achieve and do is an area there is a huge amount of research and a huge amount of capability that's come in. That is going to be equally so. It starts getting interesting when you start mixing AI technology and biomechanics, etc. There's a lot of interesting. If you're fans of science fiction, I would really recommend reading this book called Next by Michael Crichton. Almost written a decade ago, but it's an amazing, interesting view into what is possible. Nanotechnology has always been interesting. I know it falls in and out of flavor depending on the day you look at, right? But an area of phenomenal nanomachines and other things, an area of continuous evolution and development that continues to occur. And again, going back to what I said about, right? I mean, you can't build an Uber, Swiggy, Zomato, etc. without a mobile phone, GPS, user interfaces, internet, etc. These foundation technologies made these businesses. You take any of these pieces of the puzzle out, that business falls apart. You take GPS out, there's no Uber.
Of course. Or you take fast internet from my mobile out.
You will not use it, right? So smartphone, UX, a lot of these things had to come for this business to exist. Now the same thing would happen. You have AI, you have nanotechnology, you have biotechnology, etc. A brand new business will evolve that leverages these things which didn't exist before.
Interesting.
Right? So today we talk about them very naturally. Hey, I'm going to take an Uber, or I'm going to order by Swiggy, or whatever, right? Now, they won't exist if you remove these foundations.
Components from it.
So once you add new foundations like AI, like generative AI and automation agents and biotechnology and nanotechnology, etc. And there's a whole bunch around it that will start evolving. There will be absolutely new capabilities that will start evolving on top of it, which are new businesses that enable us as humans. And that evolution is going to, and that's the opportunity. And remember, we are talking anybody who passes out has 40 years ahead of them. Right? 40 years ago, we were writing in COBOL.
Exactly. And we were
Right? We were
right.
just finishing our Y2K
We were-
25 years ago.
Exactly.
Right? And 15 years before that, we had done all the damage for Y2K.
And we were also booking STD calls, the trunk calls.
Yeah,
With our
actually
exchanges.
correct. Yeah,
You could not dial directly.
You can't dial. You
outside
can't
of
speak to
city.
somebody outside of town that easily. You would, go somewhere and get an. You would actually call somebody from if you had a phone at home, which was very rare. You would call
Exactly,
somebody
40
and
years
say,
ago.
"I want to talk to this person,"
Right.
and then they will give you a call back half an hour later and say,
Later.
"Now you can talk."
You can talk.
Like.
So there was a career for a exchange operator also,
Yeah,
which
very
probably
much.
doesn't exist
Which
anymore.
doesn't exist anymore, and many things like that. If you step back, you'll see this whole bunch of things. Another big example when I talk about future of work that I pick as an example is take any World War II movie. Right. You will see this room where there's a whole bunch of people typing.
Right.
Which will show up in almost all World War II movies. Like
Right.
there's some strange room that is always there.
Yeah.
Where are those people today?
First of all, good we don't have war.
Right, but where are those people? No, it's not
Right.
because of war.
Those
We
jobs,
used to
yeah.
have stenography
Stenographers, right.
as a very important profession.
Right.
And even when I passed class 10, I had to go to a typing institute to go
Learn
the QWERTY keyboard, right?
Wow.
We don't do that anymore.
Right.
It's still helpful, by the way. If you do learn touch typing,
Right.
it's horrendously fast than anything else.
Right.
But we don't do that anymore.
anymore.
Right? The shorthand
Right.
disappeared. It's a fantastic way to take notes.
Right.
We have stopped learning that.
Absolutely.
So many of these things change over time. And I think the opportunity is that you will build new professions, roles, capabilities, etc. on top of all these emerged technologies. Now, that means also remember, as individuals, we have to be open to a very multidisciplinary learning.
True.
Like, it's not, I am a mechanical engineer or I'm an economist, sociology expert.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. It's like, hey, I am good at this, but I have an understanding of
different disciplines.
But it's also possible for you to learn other things faster
Today,
because
yes.
you just go to Gemini and you say, I want to have a better understanding of the subject, and you very quickly start getting notes. You learn about this faster.
Correct.
You're able to put things together much more easier.
No, absolutely. I think this is very interesting point to also remind our learners that yes, absolutely. Today you are preparing for a world where AI, generative AI, is being leveraged significantly. But is it going to be there 40 years down the line? Maybe a different version will exist. Maybe it will not exist altogether.
Significantly more capable versions of. I mean, we wouldn't even call it generative AI at that point. We would just call it is there.
Right. Yeah, possibly.
We don't talk about remote control as an additional special technology feature for TV anymore.
Right. And I remember organizations like Tata's or L&T or similar organizations which existed in 1900s, they had general manager position for electricity.
Yes.
Now they don't have that, right?
They don't have it.
So
we used to have EDP departments.
Right. So, no, absolutely. So I think if you are starting your career, whether entrepreneur strength or job, knowing these technologies certainly helps. But that doesn't mean that this is the end of all. As Madhu also mentioned that after finishing your university, you will take 5 to 7 years to actually learn about the way of working, like you have learned about learning, and use this time to see how technology is evolving over a period of time, because it will continue to evolve. The time periods have been compressed, right? You mentioned probably earlier changes were happening every 10, 20 years. Now they will happen in single digit number of years.
Sure.
And the another thing I will certainly also add is that while Madhu mentioned about 40 years of career, I will also take the next step or leap forward and suggest that maybe earlier people could say that, I am a mechanical engineer, I will grow in my career and I'll be a mechanical engineer for 40 years, but you will have different careers altogether in 40 years. You might have 2 to 3 different careers in 40 years. You might start as someone and then go on retiring as someone else. And would you even retire? Who knows? Will people really retire in 40 years? I don't know, because
the biological engineering may allow you to do much more by that time.
By the time, exactly. So our healthcare has anyways been improving. So a lot of changes are happening in the world we live in. The best way is to learn the skills which will matter in long run, which, as you rightly mentioned, being empathetic, being critical thinker, because technology will continue to give you a lot of solutions. But even today, as when we say that generative AI can give you good answers, but as a good learned student, your responsibility is to figure out the right answer as a critical thinker, because it can make errors for sure, right? But again, it is the human which has the human mind which can bring different perspectives, emotions into picture before taking a right decision. I'm not sure if decision making is something we are giving to machines, at least in near future. Critical decision making, at least.
Critical decisions, probably, yeah.
Maybe
But a lot of
structured
small
decisions,
decisions
workflows,
making.
yes.
Yeah.
Open the door if there is some recognized face, yes, absolutely. But I'm not sure if I will give control of my nuclear power plant to purely machine. There will be human in the loop. because
Human
of
in the loop
critical
is
thinking.
definitely going to be there, yes. And the reverse also, AI in the loop of humans is also going to be there.
Of course, so that we
Both
make
are going to
better
be there
decisions.
to help you. And that's sort of where the acceleration comes from. Absolutely.
And I like AI in the loop because we know that a lot of people might make incorrect decisions. So AI can actually validate that decision.
Correct. One is
it really
incorrect
good for you?
decisions, or as humans, we also have stress, challenges,
Of
other things
course.
that come in, right?
Like
So we
driving a
need.
car under influence of alcohol. Car
Correct.
will say, okay, I am AI in loop. I'm not letting you drive.
I'm going to prevent you from doing a
taking
mistake.
risk. Exactly.
Taking a risk, and
Exactly.
undue risk or undue challenges that come in. So we want to have protections built. I mean, I think things like Pokeyoke and other protections built in the systems,
Right.
powered by AI, that enables us to not do something we do not want to happen.
Exactly. Exactly. No, absolutely. Madhu, this has been a very insightful conversation. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, any closing words to our learners? Any words of wisdom?
No, I think we are all going to learn a lot from you all. The way I would think of
Absolutely.
it, there is the opportunity to uplift and do very, very challenging things ahead of us does exist. It is sometimes when you look at social media or things like that, it may look like doom gloom. No, it does not. The opportunity landscape is significantly higher because we discover and open up new windows. So the curve is actually this way, not this way.
Right.
Right, the curve is like this. So the number of opportunities open up tremendously high. The key thing I would, I know I have a son as well. So sort of one of the things I would really point out is that there are more consumers than producers, right? Whether it's content, business, value generation, etc., etc. There are less people who generate new value than people who consume value. There's always more consumers out there. So try to build yourself a career or a system where you are a value generator, which means you have a market. Whether you're an employee, whether you're a business owner, etc., you always should be generating value. If you prioritize that, automatically consumption occurs and you become much more valuable than anyone else.
Amazing. Thank you so much for those kind
Thank you.
words, Madhu. Thank you, everyone, for watching this session. All the best.